Who's the solitary gourmet of North Korea? All right, I will let everyone democratically vote this time. But there is only one candidate. Our dear leader, Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il, the reclusive dictator of North Korea, secretly lived like a Michelin star emperor. Picture a ruler flying in French chefs and Japanese sushi masters to a famine-stricken country just so he could dine on toro sushi, cognac and caviar behind guarded palace gates. It sounds like satire, but it's true. This story dives into Kim Jong-il's obsession with fine food, culinary luxury, and absurd eating habits, all served with a side of admiration and dark humour. Okay, now grab a seat at the Dear Leader's banquet table and let's begin.
One man with a personal insight is Kenji Fujimoto. For 13 years, he worked as Kim Jong-il's personal chef, one of the few outsiders allowed in to this secretive and reclusive world.
Kim Jong-il, father of Kim Jong-un, was worshipped in North Korea as the Dear Leader, a nearly divine figure draped in secrecy. Publicly, he projected an image of modesty, a short, taciturn man in a drab battlesuit who seldom spoke on camera. Many North Koreans never even heard his voice. Behind closed doors, however, he revealed a very different persona, a world-class foodie with an insatiable appetite for life's luxuries. From a young age, Kim was a picky eater. Notes from his 1950s childhood portray little Jong-il fussing over meals, even as war raged. As an adult, that finicky palate blossomed into a full-blown gourmet lifestyle. While publicly preaching austerity, Kim was privately poring over foreign cookbooks, sampling rare ingredients, and designing multi-course menus like a five-star chef. He reportedly kept a library of thousands of books on food and wine. In a country cut off from the world, he made it his mission to import the world's finest flavours straight to his table. How do we know all this? Thank the cook and tell memoirs of his chefs and the testimonies of defectors. Over the years, Kim's private cooks, from Japanese sushi masters to Italian pasta makers, spilled the beans about his dining habits. Their stories provide an unprecedented glimpse into the Dear Leader's kitchen, and the details are stunning.
이탈리아 요리 전문 식당입니다. 피자는 수백 년의 역사를 가진 이탈리아의 전통적인 민족 음식입니다.
During the 1990s, as North Korea's economy crumbled, Kim Jong-il busied himself flying in culinary talent from around the globe. He turned the world into his personal takeout service. Craving authentic pizza? He quietly arranged for Italian pizza chefs to come to Pyongyang and teach his staff the art of Neapolitan pizza. One chef, Ermanno Falanis, later recounted his surreal 1997 stint at one of Kim's villas. He found a vast, ultra-modern kitchen as spotless as an operating theatre, staffed with eager North Korean sous chefs. These local cooks treated their work as a sacred ritual, even using a ruler to ensure olives on a pizza were perfectly spaced. Falanis never met Kim face to face. Kim was only referred to as a very important guest. Yet he received strict instructions: no salty food and absolutely no anchovies on the Dear Leader's pizza. Clearly, our Dear Leader does not like anchovies.
Why would you ruin a perfectly good pizza with anchovies? I'm sorry, but anchovies on pizza, it just doesn't feel right.
In 2008, Kim sent chefs to Naples and Rome to learn how to reproduce authentic Italian pizza and pasta after repeated trial and error. In December that year, Kim authorized the opening of the country's first pizzeria, called Pizza Restaurant, on Kwangbok Street. Pizza is only a slice of Kim's culinary world tour. He also employed a Japanese personal chef named Kenji Fujimoto for over a decade. Fujimoto, his sushi maestro, satisfied the leader's craving for top-grade sushi. The pressure to impress was immense, but Fujimoto delivered.
The two men shared a passion for fine food, and while many North Koreans were starving, Kim Jong-il would send Fujimoto around the world to buy ingredients for lavish dishes.
One of his specialities was serving sashimi from live fish. The fish must remain twitching as Kim savoured it. Kim found this gruesome delicacy delightful and applauded it. For a man in search of extraordinary flavours, even sushi had to come with spectacle.
確かに今ね、我が国とアメリカはちょっと
Kim's appetite knew no borders. He indulged in Chinese, Russian and French cuisine at a whim. His palatial residences, that he had at least a dozen, each had specialty chefs and stocked ingredients ready to whip up whatever he desired. One evening he could order Peking duck and Shanghai crab from his Chinese chefs. The next day he might enjoy Russian borscht and caviar blinis. French haute cuisine was a particular love of his. He maintained French-trained chefs to serve truffle soup, foie gras and rich sauces like those of a Parisian restaurant.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, quick! Now, foie gras can be duck liver or goose liver. This is actually duck liver, and it actually looks like a sort of block of butter. But you get it really nice and crispy on the sides, and inside it should be served slightly pink. But you've got to be quick. If you leave it in the pan too long, it disappears.
Kim turned his palaces into global gourmet islands amid a starving nation. The timing of these secret feasts added to their oddity. Kim often held elaborate banquets that began at midnight and stretched until dawn or even longer. Some dinners, or say feasts according to Fujimoto, lasted for 3 or 4 consecutive days, an endless procession of food, drink and entertainment. Imagine this, Kim seated at the head of a grand table after midnight, raising a crystal goblet of vintage wine, toasting his inner circle and guests, while course after course is brought out by white-gloved servants. Music played, sometimes a band or an orchestra, followed by dancers to entertain the guests. At one party, the entertainment included young female attendants dancing for the officials, a decadent spectacle reminiscent of Caligula or Gatsby. These gatherings were displays of power and excess. Guests noticed, however, that Kim himself did not gorge. A Russian envoy who accompanied him on a train trip observed that Kim took only small bites, as if tasting rather than devouring. Kim prided himself on being a true gourmet, not a crude eater. You should enjoy a meal first with your eyes, second with your nose, and third with your tongue. This mantra reflects how he saw himself, a refined connoisseur with a discriminating palate. He might preside over 20-course banquets, but he personally nibbled modestly and critiqued flavours, discussing food and wine at length with any fellow enthusiast. One Russian official recalled spending hours talking to Kim about recipes and vintages between train stops. Kim loved to show off his culinary knowledge to any comrade who can truly appreciate it.
The two leaders have become close enough to converse without reserve, as if they were old friends.
What exactly were Kim Jong-il's favorite foods? His menu was as peculiar as it was extravagant. Kim adored Japanese sushi, especially the rarest kinds and parts. Premium tuna belly, sea urchin, giant clams, the rarest and freshest, the best of the best. He reportedly ate shark fin soup weekly, a costly delicacy requiring fins from live sharks. Lobster was another favourite. On train trips, he insisted on fresh lobster every day. Live lobsters were kept in tanks on his train or flown in to meet him, so he could dine on lobster sashimi or steamed lobster tail with butter. He even ate lobster with solid silver chopsticks, said to detect poison. Oh boy, poison was likely a constant fear, so the silver chopsticks served both safety and status. The previously mentioned Russian dining companion even noted that Kim tried roast donkey meat on that train. One must wonder how that tastes like. Clearly, Kim wanted to taste everything from ocean delicacies to farm oddities. Besides, Kim enjoyed specialty meats like Kobe beef and prosciutto from Italy. He maintained agents and couriers tasked with sourcing top quality meat internationally. They secured Danish pork, Hungarian foie gras, Iranian beluga caviar, Spanish cured ham and more. About his mother nation Korea, he ate traditional dishes but only the finest, barbecued ribs from specially bred cattle or wild boar stew.
This is one of the easiest Korean stews you can make at home. Get some beef and sesame oil and gochujang. This stew is called gochujang jjigae. That's why you need a lot of gochujang for this. I put anchovy stock, but you can replace it with water or chicken stock. Then put some vegetables, onions, zucchini, and potato. And lastly, you want to season it just a little bit more with the chili powder and soy sauce and a little bit of sugar.
He was also known to enjoy dog meat soup, believed to boost stamina in Korean tradition. He eagerly consumed other medicinal foods. His diet at one point included bear paws, tiger bone wine, and concoctions made from endangered animals, based on his doctor's assurances of their health benefits. In the late 1990s, his Longevity Institute procured substances like blue shark liver oil from Angola and a secret lion extract from Tanzania. For anything exotic and rumoured to be healthy, Kim wanted to try it.
해양 시민들은 좀 대단히 좀 흥분 상태에 있습니다. 대통령께서 이렇게 직접 방문 척기 정말 용단 내려서서 이렇게 오신 데 대해서는 정말 우리 인민들이 뜨겁게 이렇게 맞이했는데 그래도 인사 작업이 제대로 됐는가 하고 이렇게 자신들이 걱정도 하고 있습니다.
Now time for beverages. No royal feast is complete without drink, and Kim's drinking habits were legendary. His favourite for years was Hennessy Paradise Cognac. He loved it so much that leaked trade data in the 1990s revealed he was Hennessy's largest single customer, spending around $800,000 a year. He favoured generous snifters of it at dinners or toasting sessions. Kim also amassed a wine cellar to make French sommeliers jealous. By the early 2000s, he owned about 10,000 bottles of Bordeaux, Burgundy, and Champagne. He could casually choose a 1960s Chateau Latour for dinner. Initially, he favoured French wine, but when his Italian pizza chef remarked that they only ever drank French wine, Kim promptly ordered shipments of Italy's finest Barolo to diversify the offerings.
There are 20 different Italian wine regions and over 500 different styles, which definitely can make shopping for Italian wines confusing, but it doesn't have to be.
Problem solved. Any offhand comment could turn into a luxury import within days when you rule with absolute power. Later, his doctors encouraged him to drink more red wine for his heart, so he switched mainly to Bordeaux, though he still drank any exceptional wine by the case. By the end of the feast, it is the dessert time. Kim had a sweet side. He enjoyed gourmet desserts like European chocolates and pastries. At one point, he craved a particular herb-infused rice cake he'd tasted. Since nobody in North Korea could reproduce it, he sent his Japanese chef to Tokyo to buy them from a famous shop. Each tiny cake effectively cost around $120, but Kim savoured them without a second thought. He once dispatched a jet solely to pick up takeout desserts. Another quirk, he loved French cheese, particularly pungent camembert and emmental. That foodie gene ran in the family. Kim's eldest son was caught trying to sneak into Japan with a fake passport to visit Tokyo Disneyland, reportedly to eat pizza and pastries there.
Everything I ate at Tokyo Disney Sea. I started with the #1 item on my list, this potato churro.
It's definitely more savory than sweet. It tastes the graininess of the potato inside. It's really, really soft. It doesn't have that like churro crunch, but it's still really good.
In short, Kim had strict food rules. Above all, he demanded perfection. Famously, he insisted that his rice be uniform. He employed attractive young women to inspect rice grains, discarding any that did not match. The rice had to be cooked over wood from Mount Paektu and water from special springs, fulfilling the culinary rituals sacred in Korean law. To Kim, it was as though he was a demigod. His food came from the sacred mountain's wood and water, cooked to precise standards. No detail was too small. If a recipe needed vinegar, he wanted the finest balsamic from Italy. For coffee, he preferred freshly roasted Brazilian beans brewed with spring water and served in bone china. Even the temperature of his food had to be perfect. He had legions of servants and specialists ensuring every meal was an event of flawless execution. This was not simply dining, it was a theatrical performance starring Kim's appetite.
Fujimoto says every ingredient had to be honed and prepared to artful perfection. These are the finest cuts of tuna money can buy.
Number one.
This indulgence played out while ordinary North Koreans were plunged into misery. In the mid-1990s, as Kim imported truffles and brandy, North Korea suffered a devastating famine dubbed the Arduous March. Crop failures, the loss of Soviet aid, and economic mismanagement left millions starving. Estimates of the death toll range from a few 100,000 to 2 million. Yet inside Kim's palaces, tables groaned under roasted meats and French wine. The contrast is so extreme, it seems unbelievable. At the height of the famine around 1997, reports surfaced that Kim Jong-il placed an order for 66,000 bottles of fine French wine, along with tons of luxury foods like cheese, meat, and chocolate. Delicacies continued to flow into Pyongyang on their way only to the elite. Kim ensured his pantry and those of his top generals were full, while the average citizen ate plain millet. Foreign intelligence agencies tracked the luxury goods arriving in North Korea, and tabloids dubbed him the banquet king of Pyongyang. It recalled the Hunger Games' decadent capital versus the starving districts. Kim truly embodied that divide.
Korea underwent the most difficult trials due to the moves of the Allied imperialist forces to isolate and stifle it, and the repeated natural disasters. Leader Kim Jong-il had to tide over great difficulties on the road of building a thriving nation as desired by President Kim Il-sung.
Inside North Korea, people heard a different story. Propaganda portrayed Kim as humble and caring. State media released absurd reports of Kim eating potato dishes for dinner on his birthday, or refusing special meals and eating plain corn with soldiers. These tales were meant to fortify his cult of personality. Tragically, many North Koreans, cut off from outside information, believed these stories. If ordinary citizens had learned the truth, anger and betrayal would have been immense. Kim's staff later said he was aware his people were starving, yet he saw himself as more important than the populace. He believed he was the nation. Feeding the God King perfect rice and wine was, in his warped view, more crucial than feeding everyone else. Kim attempted some strange solutions to food shortages. In 2006, he tried to solve famine with giant rabbits. He ordered a dozen huge rabbits imported from Germany to start a meat-producing program, but they reportedly ended up roasted at his birthday banquet. The German farmer later heard his prize rabbits had been eaten and was horrified. A project meant to feed the masses became another feast for the leader. Some analysts speculated that Kim's love of fine living might have kept him from starting a war. A former South Korean ambassador joked that Kim, a lover of women, drink, and gourmet food, enjoyed life too much to launch a suicidal conflict. Well, if the war starts, you can't drink French wine and fully enjoy foie gras in a bunker. Perhaps the world was lucky that Kim preferred wine and cheese over destruction. It's a dark humour footnote of our human history. An Epicurean tyrant may be too self-indulgent to be utterly reckless.
The great Korean leader, Comrade Kim Jong-il, is the highest incarnation of human thought. He is the great man of the present age who is standing on the highest peak of intelligence, leadership ability, and learning, the peak which nobody can climb.
In June 2000, a hushed banquet hall in Pyongyang became the stage for an unlikely diplomatic performance. North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, usually a shadowy figure, personally hosted South Korean President Kim Dae-jung at a state dinner during the first ever Inter-Korean summit. Kim Jong-il shed his hermit persona to play the consummate host. He joked that thanks to Kim Dae-jung's visit, he had broken out of seclusion, quipping that he wasn't truly a recluse after all. The two men chatted casually about kimchi and Pyongyang's famous cold noodles. The dear leader said, "Seoul and Pyongyang both have sour cabbage. They share many traits, yet they are not the same. Seoul's version is too salty. Pyongyang's is too much watery." When President Kim mentioned he'd wolfed down a bowl of the noodles for lunch, Kim Jong-il gently admonished him, "You have to slow down when you eat buckwheat noodles." The North Korean leader advised the South Korean leader like a true food aficionado tutoring a friend on proper noodle etiquette. For the South Koreans, the banquets were a surreal experience, dining on lobster thermidor and fine Bordeaux in Pyongyang, while knowing that just beyond the gates, children might be starving. Some South Korean officials later admitted feeling uncomfortable at the sheer luxury, but they also recognized Kim's intent. He was using food as theatre, a form of diplomatic seduction. Every course and toast was meant to soften Southern skepticism and create an atmosphere of conviviality. And to an extent, it worked. President Kim Dae-jung even remarked that Kim Jong-il has a sense of humour and is quite adept at conversation, recalling how easily Kim chatted about wines and cuisine during their meals. Throughout the early 2000s, Kim Jong-il repeated these gastronomic overtures whenever opportunities arose. When US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright visited Pyongyang in October 2000, Kim threw an equally sumptuous banquet for her delegation. He personally guided Albright through a tasting of prized Maotai liquor and French wines, toasting her under the glitter of North Korea's finest banquet hall. Years later, at the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit with South Korean President Roh Moo-hyun, Kim again staged an opulent farewell luncheon. Though slower in step and aging, he still presided over courses of delicate wild ginseng soup and grilled beef ribs, flaunting that he personally knew the pedigree of the cattle and the herbal medicinal lore behind the soup. The dear leader pointed to one of 9 wine bottles on the table, prompting staff to pour that selection for everyone and leaving visiting journalists holding their breath in anticipation. The chosen bottle turned out to be a modest Côte de Nuit Village 2002 from French vintner Michel Picard. Dubbed Kim Jong-il's wine, this burgundy red unexpectedly boosted Michel Picard's fortunes. By late 2007, the winery had inked deals in South Korea and was even lauded as a distinguished winery in a French cultural heritage program. Michel Picard's relationship with Pyongyang actually began in 1992, when a North Korean embassy official flew in by helicopter to France to purchase cases of Picard's wine for a VIP customer. Like father, like son. At a March 2018 dinner hosting a South Korean envoy delegation, Kim Jong-un also served Michel Picard's Burgundy, showing that despite new EU sanctions in late 2017 banning wine exports to North Korea, nothing on the leader's table had changed. Pulling off this culinary indulgence in an isolated, sanctioned country required spy-novel logistics. Kim Jong-il maintained a clandestine supply chain for his kitchen. Trusted agents and couriers were dispatched around the globe to acquire gourmet items. Some operated undercover as diplomats, while others ran front companies. Money was no concern, since Kim had secret Swiss bank accounts and profits from illicit trades to fund his tastes. For caviar, his agents flew to Iran and the Caspian region to procure beluga roe. For fruit not native to Korea, he had mangoes and papayas flown in from Thailand, melons from Japan, and muscat grapes from China. For cheese and butter, couriers visited French and Dutch markets to buy cases of brie, camembert, and fine butter, then air-freighted them home. For unusual proteins, North Korean diplomats in the Middle East were told to buy camel hump and feet, which Kim wanted to try. This procurement network was coordinated by a secret government office known as the Room 39, tasked with obtaining luxury goods for the regime. Through this office, Kim funneled millions of dollars into buying everything from Mercedes cars to expensive food. The most remarkable logistical feat was his 2001 train journey to Moscow. Kim refused to fly, so he embarked on a 10-day train trip across Russia. He didn't abandon his luxuries. The train was a palace on rails. At every major stop, fresh provisions were delivered. Lobsters on ice, live fish in tanks, crates of wine and cognac. Local Russian officials along the route had to supply delicacies like sturgeon and vodka. Yes, the roasted donkey incident happened here. It was astonishing that, a slow-speed train barreling through Siberia, yet Kim dined on lobster thermidor and caviar, washing it down with Bordeaux and champagne, coordinating helicopters and vehicles to meet the train with fresh supplies, keeping seafood alive and wine chilled. Ensuring the dear leader's plate was never empty required an enormous effort. It was like catering a royal wedding daily for one man on a moving train.
When the world media were saying that the survival of Korea would be a miracle, Korea reported of the successful launch of an artificial satellite and underground nuclear test. The world opinion began to change.
Back in Pyongyang, Kim also had an Institute of Nutrition and Longevity with more than 200 staff, mostly doctors, nutritionists and scientists, whose mission was to keep him healthy through diet. They analysed his blood and health stats and recommended menus. If his cholesterol was high, they added more omega-rich fish. If he needed energy, they prepared herbal tonics or rare mushroom soups. They even grew organic vegetables in special greenhouses just for him, free of pesticides. In a country where farmers lacked fertilizer and children lacked vitamins, the ruler had a private organic farm and a team of doctors planning his meals. The institute's entire budget could have been used to improve public nutrition. However, instead, it was devoted entirely to prolonging Kim's life. Some recommendations bordered on quackery. They advised him to stop smoking and lose weight. Very sensible steps.
It was the desire of Kim Il-sung and wish of Kim Jong-il to build a thriving country in which national power is strong, everything prospers, and the people live the happiest life.
Maintaining Kim's lavish diet under North Korea's conditions was extraordinary. It required global reach, secrecy, and enormous resources. By some estimates, as much as 20% of North Korea's state budget in the 1990s was spent on the leader's luxury goods. If that figure is close to reality, it is staggering. A fifth of a poor nation's budget essentially financed one man's appetite. Unsurprisingly, those close to Kim had every incentive to keep him happy. Loyal generals and officials were invited to his banquets, enjoying fine wine and duck, while soldiers and civilians went hungry. Food became a political tool, an ultimate loyalty program. If you were loyal to Kim, you got fed. If you weren't, you starved.
When the US imperialists and their stooges were clamoring for a war to crush socialism in Korea, Kim Jong-il, supreme commander of the Korean People's Army, ordered the whole country into semi-war state.
Kim Jong-il understood the power of food. In Korean culture, a ruler is expected to feed the people. Kim inherited a system where food and scarcity were used to control the population. Kim cultivated a myth that he was a culinary genius and benefactor to his people's diet. Propaganda credited him with inventing new foods for the masses. In 2000, state media claimed he invented gogi gyeopbang, meaning double bread with meat, essentially a hamburger. Kim presented it as his gift to students and workers, as if he personally created this culinary wonder. The regime even opened a few burger stands in Pyongyang, though they avoided calling them American hamburgers. In 2011, it was later claimed he invented wheat wraps, just like burritos. According to propaganda, he dreamed of introducing these to the Korean diet.
North Korea actually claims that Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, invented the wheat wrap, or burrito, in 2011, shortly before his death. And the state media even aired a TV segment showing citizens allegedly enjoying his wheat wrap outside a North Korean food factory, despite the country's severe food shortages.
Kim's obsession even touched pop culture. He loved film and literature. He funded a cooking show that glorified revolutionary dishes and oversaw cookbooks distributed to households. One late 90s cookbook contained recipes for cooking grass and tree bark, teaching starving people to season twigs into meals. It is hard to imagine a more dystopian scenario, the great leader providing recipes for tree bark soup while sipping shark fin broth. For loyalists, good food was a perk. Loyal officials could shop at special stores stocked with imported goods, a communist elite supermarket. Their bellies became tied to the regime's stability. They had every incentive to support the system that fed them caviar and cognac. He was shown visiting food factories, tasting snacks and instant noodles, and giving paternal approval. Photos depicted him visiting fisheries or pickle plants, extolling the importance of feeding the nation, without mentioning that he kept the best for himself. Inside his court, food was used to secure loyalty and instill fear. An invitation to dine with Kim was the highest honor, and potentially terrifying. Officials were expected to offer endless toasts to his health, drinking until they could barely stand. Kim, with an iron liver, would sip leisurely while his guests became intoxicated. In such a state, people might let slip something unwise, and his secret police would remember. It was a twisted court. You got invited to feast, overindulged under pressure, and a misstep could lead to your downfall. One chilling story recounts that Kim noticed some officials clapping without enthusiasm during a performance. He quietly punished them for insufficient fervour.
I'm so lonely, so lonely, so lonely inside real Rome.
Kim's gourmet habits cement his reputation as one of the most eccentric dictators in history. Many tyrants are brutal, but not all have such flamboyant tastes. His culinary indulgence is frequently cited alongside his love of Hollywood movies or the propaganda about him golfing 11 holes in one. It adds to the mystique. Future generations may read that in a destitute Orwellian state, the ruler ate sashimi from live fish and kept 1960s vintages in his cellar, and they will shake their heads. There is also a somber legacy. The regime continued to prioritize the comfort of the ruling family over the needs of ordinary people. Kim Jong-un reportedly inherited his father's taste for luxury. He is known to love Swiss cheese and fine wines, and he built a ski resort with gourmet restaurants for the elite. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The dynasty's indulgence continues, albeit with slight stylistic changes. The power structure Kim reinforced remains. Loyalty is rewarded with food and luxury, while average citizens depend on state rations. Food remains a tool of control in North Korea, where those in power enjoy banned imported goods in secret. Culturally, Kim's over-the-top dining has educated the world about North Korea's internal conditions. The stark injustice of his feasts compared to the famine fueled global outrage and scrutiny of North Korea's human rights abuses. Defectors often cite his indulgence to illustrate the regime's priorities. Money that could have fed millions went to cognac and missiles. In a twisted way, Kim's gourmand reputation helped keep the spotlight on North Korea's inequality. Kim Jong-il died in 2011, reportedly from a heart attack. Despite all the Longevity Institute's efforts and miracle foods, he died at 69, not particularly old. He likely felt his indulgence was well deserved. His funeral was a massive spectacle, and ordinary North Koreans wept as instructed, unaware that their dear leader had eaten enough in one sitting to feed a family for a month. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Kim Jong-il's secret life of fine dining. It has been a satirical and sobering look at how power and appetite collided in North Korea. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of our dear leader and want more offbeat history with a darkly witty twist, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have plenty more stories to serve up. Until next time, stay hungry and stay stylish.